so many people, especially all across the country, come to us, hey, we're looking at this site. How do we figure out if it's something we should even look at, right? And so basically we built a system that it's called the World Engine, and we put in all the parameters that we believe help make a park successful. And a lot of those parameters, if you match them up and so you look at a park in Austin, Texas, you look at one in McKinney, you look at one in Fort Myers, Florida, or something like that, a lot of these will have a lot of similar metrics to them. So what we did is we identified, the top metrics that those, whether they're demographic, stats, population, whatever it is, we identified what all those kind of have in common.
We are live, Cody.
Good to be back.
Man, it's good to be back, bro.
I got my notes.
You got your notes.
Got everything we need.
We got a little computer over here.
Yeah.
People can't see it, though. And you also have, like, this little arm gadget or whatever. What's going on, man?
Well,
wrist?
I hurt my wrist a while back ago, and it's just been bothering me. And, me and my wife, we go work out in the gym all the time, and I just always, the best way I sleep is if I just push myself as hard as I can so I'm exhausted. And I just never give it a time to recover. And plus, we're moving and doing this other stuff. And so she just slapped this thing on my wrist. It's actually helped out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so I just left it on there
the
last couple of days. But no, I'm not really injured. Just anytime I move it, it just feels like I pulled a nerve or something like that.
Folks, this man is aging.
Yeah, I know.
Falling apart.
I know.
No, I'm kidding.
That's what she says.
Do you ever do the little wrist support in the gym that you can get? These little straps?
No, I'm a man. I don't. No, we just go in and go hard.
Yeah, I see. They work. I did this. This is actually funny. I did this. Do you remember when they did that push-up contest? What was that called? Like the 100 push-up or something like that. It was this, I think it was like a 30-day thing, and it was like highlighting some cause. I don't even remember what it was, honestly. This is like probably like 10 years ago, maybe longer. Well, anyways, you do like 100 push-ups a day.
Okay.
And I was doing that, bro. Talking about my wrist afterwards, I was like this. I couldn't do anything. I mean, it was so bad that I had to literally grab those. I had one of those on 2 arms, and then every time when I went back to the gym, I had to have the strap on, and I thought my wrists weren't going to get back to what they needed to be, and luckily it's all healed.
Well, yeah, no good. It
was like this, and
I'm sure
when the Lord healed it was like this.
Yeah, I'm sure. The only problem I have is when we go to the gym, it's always, I don't know why I've always done this, and I go to the gym with the guys every now and then too.
Yeah.
Whatever machine we get on, I say it's a rule, you got to push that weight. I don't care if it's light or heavy, it doesn't matter. And so sometimes you go in after bodybuilder or somebody, and I'm sitting there struggling to get something, but I don't know why, it's always been a mental thing for me. So that's also probably where I hurt myself.
Oh, man.
800 pounds on the rack.
I can't wait to see you in one of those reels.
800 pounds on the squat rack. Let's do it. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, it is good to be back.
Yeah,
we're excited to talk about flex space. Great things happening. Oh, I think I sent you a text about this, about Google coming right across the street from us and expanding their headquarters by $1 billion.
Yeah. No, that's going to, one thing that's also going to do, what people don't realize, and I'll go into that on the emerging markets, is one thing that does, especially that like Tesla, down in Austin, is it brings in a lot more infrastructure. Yeah. Into certain areas, and whenever it does that, it then allows for home developers and regular real estate developers to come in and build some more stuff. Because when you got an emerging market or a market that's driving up and up, the thing that people run into is utility issues, right? Yeah. And so a good friend of mine, he's building a master plan community out in Lockhart, Texas, and that's what they ran into was utility issues and all the things that they had to do to get that in. And so whenever you do have something like that, the additional infrastructure that brings in is huge, because as you know, when Tesla came to Austin, people are trying to build flex all around there, and they struggled before that because the infrastructure wasn't there, and they're still struggling to get it, because it's still kind of moving and expanding. But that's something that I think a lot of people don't really realize is it brings a lot of that stuff in that really will help the area, really grow and expand, and not just that, just the additional businesses to service not just that facility, but the people that are going to work there, the people that live in the area as well.
That's right. Yeah, we're really, just excited about that fact. I think that kind of draws me back to what we talked about, I believe, the previous episode, about how important it is to buy land in the right place.
Oh, yeah. No,
so when we did our due diligence on this piece, it just touched all the metrics. In fact, we're going to talk about metrics, not specifically Midlothian, but I know we're going to talk about some of the things you guys do at your office when it comes to metrics and kind of qualifying a piece of lot and the potential of a flex space building. But it checked all the boxes, and in fact, you were involved as well in the kind of the beginning of it. I think we talked about before we closed on it.
Oh yeah.
And you did a little bit of research on it and gave me your opinion on it. And between our research, yours, it was like, man, this is a no-brainer. But I think it's things like this when you see large corporations, come in and plant right beside you that you picked a great lot in a great location, and I think for me that was just kind of like validation. That's kind of important when you have a young company, right, that's trying to develop, and if you can get the first 2 or 3 home runs, then it just makes everything so much easier as you're trying to build out. So I'm just really thankful for that. But hey, glad you're back. And speaking of metrics, we had a piece of land that we're under contract with, and we're not going to disclose necessarily the address here today, but somewhere here in the North Texas area. And of course, I had to call Cody, my man, and be like, hey, I need a second opinion. I need some advice on this land that we feel is a great opportunity, but however, we want the experts to look at it and give us an opinion. And so can we dive into that a little bit and kind of all the metrics that you checked with, I believe, what you call the World Engine?
Yeah. No, it's a program that our team created not too long ago. And, basically what it is, because so many people, especially all across the country, come to us for, hey, we're looking at this site, how do we figure out if it's something we should even look at, right? And so basically we built a system that it's called the World Engine, and we put in all the parameters that we believe, help make a park successful, right? And a lot of those parameters, if you match them up and say you look at a park in, like say you look at a park in Austin, Texas, you look at one in McKinney, you look at one in, Fort Myers, Florida, or something like that, a lot of these will have a lot of similar metrics to them. And so what we did is we identified, the top metrics that those, whether they're demographic stats, population, whatever it is, we identified what all those kind of have in common. And we started setting a baseline for it and understanding, all right, these buildings, are in these specific areas, they're leasing up this quick, these are their rental rates. And so we basically just spent a lot of time proving up a model that we can take a site address or, a survey, that's got the location on it. We put it in there and it'll come up with, hey, here's all the factors, right? Here's what to look at. It'll check the box if it's, if it's good, it'll put an X there. If it's below, where we recommend, it'll put a dash there. If it's just kind of on the median line. And so we took your parcel, which, I knew was going to be a good parcel. We put it in there, and I mean, it's very rare that we get a full line of checks. I mean, it's just very rare. Usually there's something in there, and you won't always get a full list of checks, right? I mean, it's just how it goes. And because especially if you're like infill, right, you're not going to have the population growth because it's already established. And so that may not be something that's completely checked on there. But anyways, so we put it on there and it spits it out to us. And, we look at it and we go, all right, look, these are the metrics of how it's running. This is where the rental rate should be. We'll also dive into, the area, see what is renting, how long it's taking, maybe what some of the incentives are, maybe some of the concessions. Where this model really helps out is for areas that don't have that, right? Because you do have a lot of markets and emerging markets that there's just no flex out there. And so using this model and going, look, all these other parks that are highly successful, they run with these stats and DIMs, you're meeting close enough to it. And this is where, we'll then spit out a rental rate. We can then come up with a leasability timeline. And then we got a project success meter in there. And so, if that meter's anywhere in the, 60s or, something like that or below that, we kind of usually say, nah, we don't really like it. Usually it's because either there's existing flex out there that's just rented too cheap, or the area just can't support the rental rate, whether that's, household income, number of businesses, things of that nature. And so, we look at it from a 2 mile, a 5 mile, and a 10 mile. And if you're infill, then you're really kind of sticking on, the immediate a lot more. But when you start to get more to the outskirts, you want to see what's coming in, what the new developments are, how many businesses are there today, how many were there a year, 2, 3 years ago. You want to kind of get all those numbers. And so, we created a system, and I'm so glad we did, because we were doing all this work manually, and it was just stacking up at the office, man. Me and the guys just there way super late, manually pulling this stuff. And so we spent some good time and money and effort on this, and it's helped out quite a bit. And so, we were able to use it for your site. And, I think it, told you everything that I think you already knew, but it was just that extra comfort level. And then to also figure out, hey, this is where maybe a starting rate should be, or because also, one thing it tells us too is if the area would be good for condos or not. And because, as you know, not every area is good for a condo.
Yeah.
And we see it time and time again, condos be put in areas that they really shouldn't, because either the businesses don't make enough money there, the spending per capita is not high enough, the average household income isn't high enough. And so how are you going to sell a condo to somebody that's, a 1,500 square foot condo that costs, way more than their house? Like, it just, some of that stuff just won't make sense. And so, but yeah, it's a great program, and we've been using it quite a bit. It also can help us. It allows us to come up with a design, give us an approximate square footage, maybe layout, things of that nature. But yeah, it looks at everything. And so, like your model here that we got, we've got the annual growth, sitting in the, high sixes, which is pretty extraordinary. How long it can maintain that, who knows?
Sure.
Areas can only maintain certain growth for so long. But your household income's good because it's constantly rising, right? And so that's how you also know that it might not be the best area if the household income, like even say your household income's at 150, it may have a dash on it because the year before it was at 155,
right,
160. And so there's a lot of little things that are in there that you want to see that really don't tell, because some people will just look at it and go, oh, it's great because the, average household income is this. And it's like, well, that's great. How much was it last year, the year before, and the year before that?
Yeah.
Like, is it because, as you know, areas can decline,
100%.
and so an area can look good and decline over time.
Yeah.
And so it just, it's good to look at all the factors. It also helps us determine, maybe if you need to add some mezzanine space, some side yards, some additional parking, where are our strengths and our weaknesses. And actually, I'm going to go to that, matter of fact, because I did do a strength and weakness on here. Pretty sure we did. Maybe we didn't. But no, it just kind of gives you your risks and whatnot, and maybe who to restrict and whatnot. And it looks like you got a pretty solid lease-up timeline, around 9 to 24 months, depending on the size of park that you do. On your size, it looks like it should be done within a year.
That's right. Now, would you recommend, we have basically 8 buildings on this project. We're approximately right around 50,000 square feet, I believe. And would you recommend doing it in phases, or do you tell developers to go ahead and build it out? Is this based on, or is that decision based on like our ability to build out everything, or like is there kind of like a method to it?
Well, it's a little bit of both. So, sometimes it comes down to ability. Sometimes certain developers, as we run into a lot of guys that are getting into this, and they just don't have the ability to build it all at once. If you're not sure on the site, but you like it, but you're not sure of the model, maybe you do it in phases. If you're going to do 100,000 square feet, I think you should do it in phases. I mean, if you're just dropping down 20,000 square feet, you just go ahead and do it, in my opinion, unless you're just really not sure. But if you're that unsure, you probably shouldn't have got the land too. But the phase side, I think it really depends on the owner and how they feel, and if they have the capacity to do it or not. And so, what some people will do is, utilize the first phase to finance the rest of it on a refinance. And so it just depends on your strategy. Mm-hmm. And if you got investor money, and if you got to pull in additional investor money to get it, there's so many factors to it.
That's great. That's some great feedback, because there are some people kind of teaching, do things in phases, So I think depending on how large it is, I think if you're right, if you're doing 100,000 square feet, then maybe you can do it in phases and kind of lease up some of it as you go. It certainly helps.
Yeah, and pulling up your thing, we do have the strengths and weaknesses on there, and it shows there's limited product built out there. There's virtually no product with side yards, which is very key. Obviously, it says another strength is the demographics, home values, spending per capita. Weaknesses is anytime you're in an emerging market, the growth is unpredictable. You don't know how it's going to be year over year over the next 5 to 10 years. If you've got some visibility issues, or you've got a unique lot dimension, or if there's a neighboring city that's producing a lot of flex, that'll be in a weakness. And then threats is if there's any land anywhere around you that's not zoned, that's going to be a potential threat, because that's potential competition that could come in. Because as you know, self-storage, multifamily, all those guys, I think Dutch Brothers, I don't know if they did this, but me and my wife were actually talking about it this week. And Dutch Brothers, the little coffee places.
Yeah.
We're like, do they just look for successful Starbucks locations and just pop up right next to them? Because it seems like that's what they're doing. And, out in Hudson Oaks, they put one out there. There's been a Starbucks over there for years, and they put one that's a slightly better location, literally stone's throw away. Same thing in Azle. And so, anytime you've got a flex park, if it's doing well and it looks like it's doing really well, and you've got land around you that's, not zoned or is zoned for flex, do not be surprised if another guy comes rolling in.
How do you prepare for something like that? Like, if the opportunity at that moment is really great, you go in, you do your thing, but yes, to your point, in the weakness, there is potentially some other properties around us, right?
Yeah.
How do we prepare for something like that?
Branding and amenities is the best way to do it. Build a park because you got to keep in mind, 85% of the parks that are being built are simple, efficient builds. Those are the easiest ones to beat. And so that's what would probably come around it anyways. Now, obviously, there's a chance somebody comes in and builds a nice high-end product, right? I mean, you just always have that opportunity. But when you look at a majority of the builds, not just across Texas, but across the U.S., they are the basic metal door, walk-in door, efficient build. And whenever, say the economy, goes down and does start to affect, flex space, it's not going to be any different than the multifamily stuff or the office stuff. The stuff that is branded well and amenitized well, those will traditionally do better because there's just not as much of it. And so that's why we always say we love side yards if the area calls for it, because it's just something that can't be replicated. And a lot of people don't do it because they go, oh, we don't want to clog up space. We'd rather just fit as many buildings as there as possible. And so if you've got those amenities that nobody else has, it just kind of makes you that outlier. And so we always say, look, if you're looking to outpace the market, you want to lead the market, you want to be, economy resilient, downturn resilient, whatever you want to call it, amenities and branding is going to get you there.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of side yards, actually, because we've not considered necessarily for this particular parcel to have any side yard. I'm a little bit torn between side yards, specifically because of one thing.
Mainly because they look ugly.
Yes, because I am about branding amenities, and we want to stick kind of to Class A light industrial.
Stick it at the back,
so
behind the buildings.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different models that you can do, and
would this be fenced, where like a fenced wall, like something you can't see through?
Yeah, or you can do a metal R panel fence too, just like the building siding.
Right.
I mean, we've seen that. There's a nice project on Beach Street that we sold years back, and they did it, and I mean, you can't see anything behind it. Okay. And so,
so what's the value? If we what kind of value increase can we expect by simply just having a side yard?
I think as far as rental rate goes, I mean, what we've seen on average is anywhere from 10 to 25%.
That's
in
good.
Rental rate. Yeah. But also what it does is it significantly helps with tenant retention and leasability.
How so?
Because there's just not much of it. And so if you've got something that a tenant can't get anywhere else, you kind of got them. And so, prime example, out there in Haslett, we sold 2 projects. They were across the street from each other, different owners, different everything. Same kind of project. One of them, though, had side yards. The other did not. One was getting $10 gross. The other's 14 plus triple net. And the tenants in the side yards, I've sold that place, I think 3 times now since it was built. The same tenants are still there. And so, because when you look out in that area, I don't know another place you can go get 2,000 square feet with a fenced-in side yard. And those tenants utilize that, and it's very important to them. And so, as each owner's bought it and jumped those rents up, they've stayed just because there's no other option for them. And so, and the other one that we sold that's getting less rate, I mean, they've had vacancy here and there. Their stuff will, maybe sit, a few months or this or not. But I think whenever you have something like that, or you've got really good signage or really good building frontage, right? And if you're doing a nice product and, you've got these nicer gyms or Pilates or whatnot, they're not going to go to your basic efficient model, right? They're going to go to something that looks good because, they're going to be about, appearance as well. And so, you're building something that maybe will tailor to the higher end flex guys, right? Like your office and retail and showroom. Well, you can stick out and, keep these guys and maintain, good positive rent growth and high occupancy because there's nowhere else they can go. Their really only step up at that point is what? Retail, which is going to be up here.
Right.
So, you got to make sure you know what you're playing in. But I'm a big fan of side yards because nobody's doing them. And so that's why you've got companies that now just specialize in small side yards.
I don't know who showed this to me.
I did, long yards.
Did you? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
It was like these rows of bays with kind of a yard.
Yeah, and they put like the blue mesh on it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it doesn't always look the best, and I get that. And so we tell people, look, if they want to do side yards, try to figure out a way for it to be behind the building or put the R panel fence around it. But you can do it behind the building and just do another driveway back behind it.
Yeah. So I think as a developer owner, you have to think about what type of tenants you're trying to attract. For example, that developer that you're talking about, that certainly when I looked at it, I was like, that is a guy that's mainly dealing with like construction companies or some manufacturer where they've got trucks and tools and, whatever else they've got going on. It's not going to be a clean site, a clean park. However, if you have a park where you can design it like how you're saying it, in the back, fenced in, closed in, then still hopefully the kind of the curb appearance still has that level of just cleanliness and tightness that developers like me want, you know?
Yeah, and there's a way of doing it. I'll send you a site to go look at not far from here. Two of them that they did a really good job on it. One of them put it behind it. The other did the R panel wall around it, so you can't even see inside.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to see it.
It kind of looks like it's integrated into the building a little bit. So yeah.
And then we have opportunities. That was part of your...
Yeah, where are the opportunities at in the area? You know, delivering new flex space with fast lease up time period. You know, there's a high need for flex out there because the, you know, vacancy is either next to nothing or the leasability is up high. And then, you know, it says, hey, let's do a showroom style build out here and really tap into that higher spending per capita, because you're at $15,000 spending per capita within a couple miles, which is huge. Argyle's around there, which, you know, Argyle and Westlake, I mean, they're some of the wealthiest people in, you know, on the side of town live up there.
Can you break that down, the $15,000 per capita spending for some of us simple folks out there?
Yeah, no. So the reason we look at that spending per capita, it doesn't always matter, especially if you're going to do a showroom, you know, or no, I'm sorry, if you're going to do a efficient build that's more basic. The spending per capita, what that tells us is how much money is being spent in that immediate area on goods, services, you know, fun, whether it's, you know, car transportation, food and alcohol, entertainment. You know, whenever a number is that high, when it's over like 11 or 12,000, that's when we go, okay, you can maybe get some showroom retail style guys here that can pay a much higher rental rate because that amount of money is being spent in the area. And so it basically is just an indicator of, hey, people have money. It's not just high home values. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of money's being spent. And, you know, sometimes it could be because maybe there's a few things out there that are destination locations, right? Like maybe an H-E-B and a Costco or something of that nature. So also looking into what helps drive that number. But, you know, I'll tell you, as you look a lot across DFW, I mean, it's not uncommon to see it, you know, 8, 9, 10,000, you know, 11,000, whatnot. If it's more rural area, maybe not as much is being spent. But when you have that kind of amount of money, it gives you a lot more operating room to figure out what you can build, because obviously the people out there have money to spend.
So this is access money they have for the year to spend on just any type of luxury good, right? Just
pretty
whatever.
much. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, like
somebody
I said,
send this list to my wife. I think we're over this.
I think we're over the per capita
spending here. Hopefully she's not listening to this podcast.
Yeah, no, she probably tuned out after the first minute.
Okay, no one send it to her. If you heard this on the live web, don't send this to her. I'm just joking.
And then we got your exit cap rate there, which, you know, anytime we do an exit cap rate, it's always in today's market, right? Today, you know, obviously our interest rate environment's on the higher side right now, so it will run in the low sevens, mid sevens. That number can change. You know, we've done this stuff anywhere from 4.75, 5.5, 6, 6.5. All of it depends on market timing, but more importantly, product, you know, stability, you know, growth and things of that nature. So there's a lot of factors that come into it. Lease type, tenant type. Cap rate is not just a universal number you can use across the U.S. Like there's a lot of factors into it. Debt is a main leading factor. That's why you got the single tenant net lease investments have, you know, their cap rates are up significantly because of where debt's at. You know, you used to be able to, you know, those guys used to be able to sell like Dollar Generals and whatnot at just really low. And I mean, those things are up quite a bit. I mean, I've seen them lately at like, I don't know, 5%, 5.25%, which I feel like back in the day, they were always in the low 4s. Mm. Yeah. And then whenever some of them like, was it Walgreens that had their credit downgraded recently?
Yeah,
it was one of them.
I believe so, yeah.
That brings up their, you know, cap rate, which obviously lowers their sales price, just because, you know, investors look at that as, okay, you know, what's our, you know, real stability and security like on somebody that was just downgraded. And so there's just a lot of factors that go into it. On the flex side, it's mostly, you know, location, quality, you know, tenant quality, current, future, pro forma, you know, all those things are looked at that help kind of create that number.
Love it. Very low construction, of course, great population growth. We already talked about home ownership. I think one thing I love about working with your group is that you really bring flex space to the next level, right? Because I think there's so many mom and pops that are building these things, and they're just like, hey, I found some cheap land out here in the country. I bet you I can get some plumbers out here.
Put some walls up.
Yeah, and
that's most of them.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously,
And
it
they do
works.
well, you
Yeah,
know?
it can work.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get in the business, do it for real. Like, understand the markets you're entering so that you're not surprised 5 years later. Because we've all driven through those towns where you see old, rusty buildings about to fall over. Well, guess what? Those were all flex spaces back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Until everybody left the city or
you and I
they
were-
lost to competition, you know?
Well, and you and I were talking about it earlier of a guy that, bought a piece of land, down south, and it's in an area that's just oversaturated and oversupplied with flex. And all they're going to do is just add more to the oversaturation and supply. And so, you can do it. And I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many times we'll look at a project and go, man, we just doesn't make enough sense for you to pay that for the land, to build it. We can just sell you a park. And you get the same return, or if not better. And they'll still go off and build a park, because they want to build their own thing, which is fine. I understand it. But understanding your metrics, because I do think even though it's a highly growing asset class, there's just no question that markets are getting oversaturated with it. I mean, it's just getting proven. I've seen rental rates go backwards in areas. And so, be the outlier. Branding and amenities, all that stuff will kind of help you, because most of those are going to be the basic builds, like you just said, where they just are throwing up some walls and trying to lease it to a plumber or somebody.
Yeah, that's right. Love it. Should we get into leasing sales strategy?
Yeah, no, I think we did. I mean, I think we were projecting your rate, around 13 to 14. That's as of today. I think that's about a 5% annual increase market, which, say you were to buy it, say you were to get buildings on it, in 18 months, I mean, you'd be 7.5% probably higher rental rate than where we're at there. The only thing that, you'll just have to start accounting for after year one is going to be your nets and understanding, where those will actually be, because as taxes and insurance and common area maintenance, that stuff really doesn't start to take true effect on new builds till after about a year or so. But, we outlined several different sizes of buildings out there, 120 by 60, 90 by 50. I think we were trying to stay under a certain threshold, were we, for sprinkler?
That's right, under 10.
Under 10,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes when you're trying to stay under a certain threshold, it doesn't always make sense to throw up, if say your threshold's 10,000, it doesn't always make sense to just throw up a bunch of 9,500 square foot buildings. Sometimes you are fitting in some smaller buildings within there if you're trying to get as big of a footprint as possible. And so what we do is we always try to maximize the land as much as possible. Not everybody always does it that way. It's rare that anybody does, to be honest with you, but it's just like, hey, if you can fit this much square feet on here at this rental rate, this is what your value would be. Now, obviously, it's up to you to, figure out what you're going to, put out there, how you're going to lay it out, how you're going to do these buildings, because sometimes you put a retention pond out there, you never know, that stuff will start clogging up some areas. And, if you have well and septic and it's not outlined on here, then, you got to do that as well. And so, I think your coverage was good. I think we were like a 34% coverage or something like that, which, anything over 30 is good.
Yeah, that's right. And luckily, when we got this site under contract, the seller actually threw in another 0.6 at the top end. This is kind of a...
Did you throw that in for free?
Basically, yeah. No.
Can't beat that.
Yeah, no. Can't beat it, because this is kind of a triangle. I wish next time we'll make sure we plug this in into the podcast so you guys can see some of this. But basically, it's a triangle. Would you call that triangle, basically? Yeah.
Pizza, yeah.
Pizza, yeah. And so at the tip of this pizza here, obviously, there's not much you can do, and that's where we're going to have
put a beautiful sign.
Yeah, we're going to have the pond there, the retention pond. They're like, hey, guess what? We're gonna give you another 0.6 so you can get out of that area, and it's draining and actually towards the back end anyway. So
there you go.
It really worked out.
Yeah,
so
you put a beautiful monument sign on the thin end of any
little walking
pizza place.
Green space.
Yeah.
People can take a break from work and
people always say, "What do you
smoke
People
their
always
cigarette?"
say, "What do we do with that sharp point?" We say, "Put a beautiful monument sign there." Because tenants will pay for that. They'll pay for that. I mean, we sold a park that they've
Makes
got
a lot
a
of sense, yeah.
tall monument sign out front, and they charge $50 a slot per month.
Wow.
Yeah.
My.
So
Tennis, we got to write that down.
yeah, the Nugget Bell. Yeah.
$50 a month for a sign, man. We're going to try to maximize every little piece of.
So why not? And it just makes it look better too, because then if someone's looking for a park, and you got buildings stacked behind buildings, but if they see your tenant name up front, they know, okay, he's in that park. You're not always going to be up front, and so
This is why you need a broker like Cody.
yeah, just just trying to help you make an extra 50.
Hey, it adds up when you got 20, 30 units, man.
Oh,
That's
shoot.
That's a nice little chunk of change, y'all. They'll pay my light bill.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them, need it or want it, but
They're gonna want it after we're through with it.
More often than not, you'd be very surprised, and we call that an amenity because a lot of people don't do it. But yeah, we run across projects all the time that we're selling where we've got an extra $600, $700, $800 a month in just signage income.
Wow, man. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, I learn something new every time we do this. I mean, because we're going to, at Midlothian, our park there, we're already working on a kind of a sign design, and it's going to be really cool. And I was just going to kind of throw it in there, but it's a expensive, cool sign.
Why not charge for it?
100%, because I can sense too, having owned multiple businesses, it's kind of an ego thing too. You want to see your name on that sign, and if it takes $50 a month, you better know it. I'm going to give you $50 a month to see my company name on that sign just lit up 24/7. Yeah, baby.
Oh, I think I told you, me and the guys, we've got a boat that we've all bought out there on Eagle Mountain Lake. You don't think there's a Flex Parks USA flag on the back of that thing? I mean, trust me.
It.
Yeah, anywhere we go, it's waving on the back of that.
Oh my God, I love it, man.
Yeah.
What other flags do you have? I feel like there might be some more to it.
That's really it. Yeah, we just have that one on the boat. I think I got one in the garage too.
You don't have Let's Go Brandon or anything like that?
No, not on that one. No
Confederate flag.
No, we try to tailor to everybody and not cause any stirs out on the open water.
That's right. Just the U.S. and Flex Park, bro. That's all
right.
you need in this world, folks. Just fly that American flag. It's good enough. Trust me.
If you want a Flex Parks USA flag, we'll hook you up.
Yeah. Well, okay, great.
Yeah. So, this one, like I said, it recommended showroom model, efficient model, condo model, said any of those things will work. We're giving an 87% success factor, which is pretty high. We advise strong signage there too. That was due to the shape and the area and the spending. And because whenever you've got people spending more money, they're the ones that are going to be more, we want signage, right? Those guys that are the more prominent, not just using it for a home base of supply in and out like your subcontractor base does. Those guys in many cases could care less if anybody knows they're there, right? They're just there to pick up their equipment and move on down the road. But your main spending is on transportation and food, which is good. It means people are spending money on cars and restaurants.
I love it. Now, I've got a question.
Yeah.
You have on this World Engine, it says key to success. You got potential amenities. We already talked about, of course, the side yard. I think additional parking makes a lot of sense. Strong signage. We're talking signage. I think what we haven't really talked about is showroom glass, but mainly, actually, what I'm interested in is the mezzanine. But let's start with the showroom glass, then get to mezzanine. Showroom glass, obviously, I think. Storefront. Yeah. So just what are some of the potentials? What is the potential of adding this amenity? Like, what does that do for the property other than just the appearance, of course, the lighting?
It opens you up to a much broader tenant pool, right? It opens you up to getting maybe a Papa John's, Mr. Jim's Pizza, whatever you want to call it, right? It opens you up to getting higher end, fitness studios, health studios, things of that nature. It brings those types of tenants in because they want that look. They want you to be able to see inside, and a lot of times, and it gives you more of a retail look. So it just makes your park a lot more versatile instead of just with subcontractor base. So it's opening it up to even the office tenants as well, because, a lot of those guys, they utilize that glass for many different reasons. If it's not just for looks, it's for also looking, from the outside in, seeing, hey, look at that karate studio in there or whatever. So, and since you got the higher spending per capita, since we're recommending a showroom build, that's why, it's got the, hey, let's get some nice showroom glass in there. The mezzanine space is utilized from a pretty wide base of people and businesses. It can be utilized not just from your general, subcontractors, landscapers, those guys that want to stack up high, but, your people in the local market that maybe have e-commerce businesses that they're bringing over. They need to use as much space as possible. Maybe they don't, maybe they're not looking to spend the money for 4,000 square feet, but if they can lease 2,000 and stack as high as they can, they're going to utilize that space. And so I was in a park out there in Kennedale recently, and they had a Amazon shipper there. And I think the ceiling height's 18 feet, and I think they had stuff stacked 20 feet high. It was and
poking outside the building.
Yeah. And it was a business that they brought from their house and they're just getting it started. Now they're ramping up more and more and doing better, but they didn't have the money for a 5,000 square foot space, so they leased 2,500, and they're just filling it up. And so with the mezzanine space, they were able to go up and use additional space instead of just building all these rafters and stuff. And then also with mezzanine space, sometimes hiring people will use it for just additional storage and things of that nature. Remember, mezzanine space is not additional square footage when you go to sell or to lease. I know. It'd be,
you disappointed me.
I know. I wish I could change that.
So mezzanine, do most people use it for extra storage or for office?
So, we've seen office people use it. We've seen retail people put offices up there.
Right.
And so it can be used for a lot of different things. If your ceiling height is only like 18 feet, or if it's under 18 feet, probably not be able to put an office up there.
Right.
Because then you're going to start shrinking everything.
Right.
It's when you go above a certain ceiling height is when you can start putting an office up there. We recommend it at 20, but it can be used for a lot of different things.
Okay.
Majority storage.
Okay, got it.
Majority storage that you don't see.
Okay.
When you come in. And so especially if they've got clients or customers, things of that nature, it's up there, it's in the storage.
And what is the advantage of a mezzanine for storage versus just having some kind of stacking system?
Out of sight. Some of those guys don't want it in sight, especially if you're trying to run a nicer kind of showroom on the inside.
Okay.
And you want to store stuff above you.
Yeah.
Because you got to keep in mind, these guys, a lot of flex space users, they maximize the space.
Yeah.
Right. They're not.
They're resourceful.
Yeah. They're not barely utilizing, like they're using every square inch of this thing. So if you give them a few more square inches, they're going to use it.
Love it.
And they'll realize by not having mezzanine, if they go somewhere else without it, they'll realize how much they use it.
Do you know the typical increase, like cost-wise, to add a mezzanine? So if you're a developer and you're looking at developing a 2,000 square foot unit, right, with a small office, warehouse, 300 square foot office and warehouse, if he's contemplating of putting a mezzanine, is that a 20% increase in cost? 30?
No, we got a cost for one. I want to say it was around $4,000 for a pretty large mezzanine space on a 2,000 square foot unit that was made out of all steel, welded steel.
Did you say $4,000?
$4,000, yeah.
Oh Lord, guys, $4,000.
But keep in mind, that's there.
That can't be steel
Forever, yeah. It's there for a long time. It's not going anywhere. You can do the cheap wood ones. Those things, I just don't like them. They just don't look as good. They seem kind of crummy. Yeah. So I think if you're going to do it, you go with the nice stuff.
And it usually takes a lot of framing and expensive lumber.
Oh, yeah. You hold that little handrail as you're going up. That's just the wobbliest thing you've ever had. Yeah. No, you might as well go ahead and use the good iron and get it built the right way. And it looks a lot better in steel, too.
Yeah, mezzanines look really good. I love them. We're actually we're doing our own office here pretty soon, hopefully. And part of that design is a kind of a mezzanine design to build 3 stories of office that will sit in a kind of a U shape.
See, so you're using it for office.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's not like a typical like flex space mezzanine, but it's similar.
Yeah.
So I love mezzanine. Just wanted to kind of
you can do it much cheaper than that. This was for a nice one. For a real nice one.
Wait a minute. You said this $4,000 mezzanine
is
the nice one.
Yeah, it was a steel one.
And we can do it cheaper.
If you go to wood, yeah.
I got to get your contact, bro.
Yeah, but when you need a tetanus
shot,
when you need a tetanus shot, don't call me. Because a nail went through your foot.
That's hilarious. Okay, let's...
went through your nice loafers.
Oh, man. Okay, let's knock this out real quick. I think we talked about some very, very valuable things. By the way, guys, if you're listening, this is something that Cody offers for his clients. Now, if you're just trying to burn his time, don't call him.
We take every call. That's what's funny.
Okay, never mind.
Well, I had a guy.
He'll take every call.
I had a guy call me on the weekend, and because in that book, I put in there, hey, if you have any questions, give us a call. He called, and he it sounded like he kind of was like shocked that I picked up, and I was like, no, I was just watching people move stuff. I'd love to take time out from moving.
Yeah, he thought he was gonna get pranked, probably.
I don't know, but he was shocked, and so we talked a little bit about it. He was doing some stuff. He was
gonna call the prayer line or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he was building a park out there in Charlottesville, and so he was just asking a few things here and there. And I said, yeah, and he wanted a financial model that we use, and so I had him send me an email and sent it to him. But yeah, no, we love taking anybody's call because I'm telling you, man, some of our best clients are guys that just called and just kind of asked a few things here and there, and just went out and did it. And so you never want to sleep on anybody. I've got a great story on that too. I know a guy that is a pretty large franchise company, He owns a large franchise automotive company. And he called a net lease broker to see about, hey, we think we want to do a sale leaseback on this. And want to see if you can help us. The guy just never gave him time of day. It was like, I don't deal with it. Anyways, he ended up using another broker guy who I know over there at a small brokerage out there in Dallas that used to be at Marcus. And I think that guy's probably sold like 50 or 60 of his locations because he took his call.
You know,
So I never want to stray away from a call.
I love that, Cody. That says a lot about your character, which I knew.
Until somebody calls and says, hey, I don't have a dime. How do I do no money down? And that's, then we're like, all right, we can't help you on that. You got to call Carlton Sheets or do residential or something.
Yeah, you got to get over to the residential side.
Yeah, you got to do residential investing.
Well, that's incredible because I think that's an aggravation of mine. Like, calling certain vendors and contractors, and you call them up, hey, I want to get a quote. We'll send you the plans. Then never get back with you. And because I think just people, I just assume that people want to burn their time and they just don't have the patience. And I think the investment, they don't want to invest in relationships today, right? Like they either want to be guaranteed to have the job, but I think the problem is they just have very little. Right? Versus if you invest in people and believe in them, you never know what that turns into. It turns into maybe selling 50 of his locations, right?
Yeah, no. One of, I'll tell you, a guy that I've made the most money off of, the first deal I ever did with him was $315,000, and the last deal I did with him was $25 million. And that was over 15 years.
Wow.
And we sold a lot of stuff for this guy. He's a local guy out here, and he owns a company called Compass Realty, and we've done a lot of business with him over the years. Very thankful for him. He helped me out a lot, gave me some good knowledge points too. But when I first came in, you're new in the business. It's hard to get business. This guy, he was an up-and-comer himself, older than me, and he had a little Lex Park out there on Brown Trail in Hearst, and we sold it for $315, and then 15 years later sold a portfolio of his stuff for $25 million, and we did numerous transactions in between there. The only thing that made me sad was I felt like he's come farther than I have in 15 years. By selling that much stuff over that time. Because if you take all the stuff that we've done with him over that 15 years, I mean, it's $60-70 million.
Man. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Love that. What do you think we should wrap up with?
I've got a few. I actually pulled a few emerging markets. How much time we got? We still got a little bit of time.
Well, we're edging towards 50 minutes here, but
well, let's save this for the next one.
Let's save it for the next one.
Emerging markets.
On the next episode. One will be emerging markets. I hope you guys got some value out of this. I think this is incredible. I'm doing this stuff, and yet every time we have a conversation, there's a little nugget that I get, and I can imagine if someone is coming from no experience or more so experience on the commercial, the residential side, there's so much to gain, so much value in these episodes that we're having, especially this one. But yeah, if you need a professional broker, call Cody. He will take every call. And
it doesn't matter, Saturday, Sunday, he's in church service or not. Call him. He'll go running out.
Hey, I have to sometimes apologize to Cody when I just text him like at 7 or 8 or on the weekends because I've thought of something cool and I just want to text him, and he's always so gracious. So I appreciate you, brother.
What else am I dealing with? Family? Like, come on now. Like,
wife and kids and family. Come on, man.
Come on, they can wait.
They can wait.
So on the next episode, we are going to go over some emerging markets that we've identified that are good markets with good rental rates, good vacancy factors, solid price per square foot on some recent sales, and then how to identify those emerging markets as well.
I love it. That's going to be incredible. Yeah. That's going to be a wealth of information.
There's a lot of things you look for in an emerging market, right? They're hard to identify. It's not just because this business came out, just kind of like you were talking about, with Google earlier. It's not just that. It's just there's a lot of different things that come into it. And if you can identify a really good emerging market, I mean, and you get in with it, kind of like we talk about, looking for new master plan, developments and things of that nature. Timing is everything, I believe, in life and in real estate. And if you can master that timing, then your success rate is, it's going to be substantially higher, and you'll be that much farther ahead of the curve in the competition.
Yeah. It seems like that Midlothian that we talked about was like pretty good timing.
Yeah, no, I mean,
didn't expect that to happen.
We had the opportunity at a deal in Weatherford. I think I told you about. It was right across the street from where I knew a Costco was going to go in, and weren't able to get the trigger pulled in time. But I mean, tell me a better location than that.
Yeah, Cody actually called me on this. Can I talk
about it? Yeah, please.
And I looked at it, I was like, man, it's a pretty cool lot. It was just a little bit more than what we want to spend a square foot. We're just, still kind of getting our wheels turning. And but he mentioned the potential of Costco, but it wasn't guaranteed, and it was not announced yet. And then lo and behold,
my insider trading wasn't good enough.
3 months later.
Yeah.
Big old announcement, Costco coming. But I think that's a great point. Like, timing is everything. And there's risk associated with that, right? Because we want to be able to make an investment based on some real tangible numbers and information, right? But the real big deals come when you're willing to kind of take some of the risk.
Yeah.
Try to, certainly as much as you can, try to assume some things or have some solid numbers. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to pull the trigger and hope for the best. And that's what happened with us in Midlothian. So, we made the best decision we could, and then it just kept getting a little bit better. So
and because if we would have bought it and Costco didn't come in, then I'd have to be on the phone with Mr. Costco trying to figure out what the hell is going on over there. And that's the last thing we need. But no,
we don't want to end up suing them.
Yeah, right. For not coming into their potential location.
Hey, man, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, always.